All are at this point. Hi, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Whether you're joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, or here on Zoom, it's good to be able to end Shabbat with all of you tonight. I was just telling everyone that my candle is in semi-rough shape after all of the heat. And so to make sure it's not going to melt on me, we're going to do this a cappella. Doing our blessings for Havdalah. So I have my hands free to catch a candle that may or may not behave. So all of your voices and spirit adding to our blessings will be so appreciated. And we always begin Havdalah by lighting our candle. By doing this, we are ending Shabbat. Yeah. If I can light it, hold on. All right, try that again. There we go. By doing this, we end Shabbat the same way that we began it, with the symbol of light. Light is a source of radiance in our lives, a reminder of the goodness around us, a reminder of the way our community comes together, like the twisted candle folding around ourselves and becoming ever brighter because of the support that we offer to one another. And a reminder that even the smallest light can illuminate a darkened room. And then we turn right away to our blessing over wine or grape juice, the source of joy, hoping to bring some of the beauty and joy of our Shabbat day with us into the week ahead. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen Yai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai ya la lai ya la lai lai ya la lai lai ya la lai. We take out our spices of any kind, whether that be rose water, as some people do, or cinnamon and cloves like I have in my set, or really anything that brings a smile to our face. And we smell them as we offer this blessing.
We're sorry, your call cannot be concluded as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
There we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim Yai lai la 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 lai lai yai lai la 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 lai lai ya la lai ya la lai lai ya la lai lai ya lai lai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei melrei haish borei melrei haish Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben Chodesh lechol Hamavdil ben Chodesh lechol. Shavua tov, 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 a good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Bimira v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. Miriam HaNeviah, Oz v'Zimra b'yadam, Miriam tirkot hitanu, lehagdil zimrat olam. Miriam tirkot hitanu, letakein et haolam. B'mira v'yameinu, iti v'yeinu. El me ha-Yeshua, El me ha-Yeshua. We sing these prayers of Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, and of Miriam HaNeviah, Miriam the prophet, because in a world that can use some healing, we hope that their spirits can help us to create a more redemptive world. And there's this idea that the Messiah will come, or a messianic age of understanding will come at a moment of transition, much like the one we're in, as we are right in that in-between between the holy day of Shabbat and this new week that is just starting, that's full of possibility, full of the not yet holy. And tonight also, with all of you, we have such a wonderful opportunity, because tonight we're going to be going through some of our temple's history and also talking a little bit about our temple's future. So tonight we are focusing on That's So TBE, the 2000s edition. And everyone on this call, was everyone a part of the temple community in the 2000s, or connected to it in some way, even if not through membership? Okay, well, all of your stories are appreciated. We have some really amazing pictures that Grant and Laurel sent over of some memories from the 2000s. I know that the Zafrans and the Perrys and also Marla have been preparing just some thoughts around the stories that they wish to share. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. But first, let's start with this slideshow of some pretty cool memories. And Grant and Laurel, if you want to unmute and talk a little bit about them, you are more than welcome to do so.
Thanks. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. Wow. So
they were a little bit smaller then.
Yeah, they were a little smaller then. Yep, look at that.
Well, and our Rachel and Linda's Rachel became known as Belzer and Perry. It's just much easier. So
there were way too many Rachels.
They're running around the temple, and it's like, where's Belzer? I need to find Belzer. You knew exactly who they were talking about. Where's Perry? I need Perry. Perry's supposed to be in room whatever.
Yeah.
And they're so
A
cute.
little younger, yeah. Mhm,
Some other ones.
mhm.
I'm appreciating the hair in this picture over here.
So I can see that picture.
Um,
Just go with the black part and drag it over.
yeah, there we go.
I'm not
Oh my goodness, Drew with
Emily.
Emily and
what's
doggone
his-
it. It escapes me. Doggone it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. That was a while
Oh,
ago.
there's the Merrick.
Merrick's, yeah.
And this was at a
Look at the
sisterhood.
wallpaper in the social,
Yeah, the old
hall.
social hall wallpaper.
Yeah, that's the
Manual
social hall.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's Sherry, Merrick, and Elitza. And
This
I
was, I think, at a women's Seder
Yeah,
you had mentioned, right?
yes, it was.
Could well be, yeah. There you
And I
go.
think there might be a couple more from that a little later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the youth choir. Yeah. Wow.
Having a good time.
So I
Yeah.
see some Dreislers and Stefan and
Mhm,
who do you
some
see?
Zimmermans. Let's see.
And Josie.
And Josie, of course, our unofficial
There-
official
oh.
photographer.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Evidence of her
Yeah.
as photographer.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
just love that the youth choir gave the kids confidence when they didn't think they had any.
Mhm.
With Elon's just ability to make people feel good about themselves. These kids were thrilled to be in the youth choir, and he gave them confidence to sing. And he, even if they couldn't sing, and year after year they got better and better because he encouraged them to stay in the youth choir.
Yes, pitch was entirely optional in youth choir. We only ask that you sing the same song the rest of us are singing. That's all we ever asked. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
little group on the left with Debbie Rowe, they're most of those kids are in our Havdalah. That they all grew
Right.
up together.
Yeah. Mackenzie.
And Debbie
Shauna.
was like a mother hen to everybody.
Yeah, very much so.
And that's actually at the airport. Rachel and the two Belzer girls, they're on their way to Camp Newman.
Mhm.
See, they say it's on their little stickers.
Yeah, they got their little
that's-
It's It
that's-
stickers.
That's at the airport going to Camp Newman.
Mhm.
That's very cute.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
There's
Another
the-
youth choir picture, but with the band over there.
with the Moody Jews rocking it out. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and
some
new
fun
shirts
times.
every year.
Yeah, Rabbi, you may not know this, but the youth choir actually performed at Staples Center a Wednesday night before Thanksgiving at a Clippers game. Before the game at a Clippers game, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, there were 33 Temple parents, in attendance, and maybe 4 other people in the entire Staples Center. But I have a photo of me playing guitar on the jumbo screen at Staples Center. And I teased Drew because he wasn't part of that gig. I tease him all the time. Drew has played, worldwide, every venue there is. I said, yeah, but Drew, I played Staples.
That's great. Yeah, another one in there.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, the
this
yard
was-
sale at
yeah.
the Belzers. Oh my goodness, I hadn't thought of that.
That
in
was a temple
forever.
fundraiser that we created in our Havdalah just to have a big garage sale and raise money. We probably raised over, I don't know, $1,000 or something
Yeah.
for the temple. Just a
Mhm.
fun way to, we were new to the Havdalah. We had probably been in it a year or two.
Mhm.
And that was amazing just to belong to a Havdalah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up very
Yeah.
Jewish, so all this was new to me.
I just thought this picture was so funny.
Yeah, nothing says Purim like a bunch of Jewish pirates. Yeah, there you go. There
Well,
you
what I always find funny is I don't remember the date, but there's a day in September that is National Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Not that long ago, it was like on Yom Kippur or something. And it was like, this feels a little inappropriate for this day, but I'm tempted.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a fun day. Yeah.
Oh, that was grand.
Oh, wow. That's my 50th birthday party in the social hall.
Look at Rabbi Leib and
yeah.
Estelle,
Yeah.
Alan, Josie.
What's funny, it's Andy Kaufman and Sherry Merrick together. It's great. And Laurel hired a Beatles cover band. And of course they made me get up and play a song or two. It was very fun. Yeah, what a night.
That was,
Very
yeah, it
cool.
was a surprise party, so.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Oh, these are, we, every year in our Havdalah, we had, this was Hanukkah, but we had, you know, somebody was in charge of a different event every year. So we had a planning meeting. We still do every January. We plan out the year of who's hosting what event. And the Merrick's always hosted Hanukkah, and the Dreiser's always hosted Sukkot.
Mhm,
So these, you know, this sub community of Temple Bethel became just super wonderful people in our lives, and we could rely on them and feel close to them and share Jewish events with them.
yeah, great.
It's very cute. And a few more of those pictures in there.
Yeah.
And that's it. Well, thank you. There were so many more pictures in that too. I had to narrow it down a little bit, but those are wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing it and putting smiles on our faces. So let's dive into a conversation about what it was like to be part of the TBE family in the 2000s. Just kind of starting with what brought you to the temple. I don't know the exact years that all of you became members of the temple, but what is it that brought you into the TBE family?
It became our temple kind of by default. We're an interfaith family, so it's kind of like if you were at a deli and you were picking, it was like, well, that's not going to work. I don't want a hot sandwich. I don't want to be Orthodox, and they don't want me. So there were other places, and we just kind of felt them out, and it kind of came down to TBE felt right, and it worked out geographically, and we gave it a go, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it was warm and inclusive even back then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Marla, do you want to share a little bit about how you became part of the temple?
Just a little bit, because I think the majority of you know my story. I don't want to bore you, but I would tell you that it was, I came to the temple first at one of those marvelous before the High Holy Day open houses. And Susan Taus can tell you, she has a memory of me. You recall the entry, very toxic, you know, walking down those stairs into the cave. And there I was, she said, walking in with this torn out piece of newspaper from the Daily Breeze with the information about the open house. And I walked in with this paper, and the arms opened up and came around me, and that was it. It was amazing. I was raised a secular Jew with no information or life experience. And I went to find a temple to heal from an incident that had brought trauma to me emotionally. And never once did I believe that I would become as involved in my faith and in my role in lay leadership and community than what happened. The thing I remember, one of the things I remember so much, I could go on forever. Dorothy Paul of blessed memory. I was telling my story one time, I was asked to do it. And afterwards she came up to me and, just as all Jewish grandmas do, took my face. She told me I was a good Jew. It was the greatest gift. I had no idea. That's how I came to the temple. And then what proceeded is pretty special to me. And all of you have been a part of that, without a doubt.
Thank you so much, Marla. And Grant and Laura, will you share a little bit also?
Sure. So like Marla, most of you have heard our story. I've told it many times. We were actively temple shopping. We were involved in a temple that was wonderful, but had very, very few children. It was a pretty gray they look like this, like I do now.
And we were in well, we still are, but
And
Long Beach,
Long
which is
Beach.
not near San Pedro.
Right. We literally took the Thomas guide. Remember the Thomas guide, right? And opened it up and said, okay, about a 45-minute radius, we could probably swing, So we walked into Temple Bethel on the night of an adult B'nai Mitzvah.
2002.
2002, 12 adults, including Jody Davidson, read Torah that night. The back wall was opened up. It looked like High Holy Days, right? There was 300 people plus in the temple. It was very moving, very beautiful. People were getting all teary-eyed. We were getting all teary-eyed, just walked in the door. And Rabbi Lead said to us, come back in 2 weeks, it's family service, bring your kids. So we did. And Rabbi Lead, in the middle of the service, as Marla, I'm sure you and Barbara remember, was flinging tambourines and maracas to the middle rows of the sanctuary. Right? He had this giant bin and he would fling them. Sophia says she's still traumatized. She was hiding under the seats. Right, the man's throwing things. Yeah. Elon had the kids up and was marching around like crazy. It was really special, and that was pretty much that. People welcomed us so wonderfully, and
embracing
warmly.
and hugging, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, we were pretty much
And
done.
He grew up Catholic, and I grew up secular, so this was all foreign to us and felt really good.
Very much so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All of you got so involved in different facets of temple life. And I would just love for you to talk about specifically, what did you get involved with during that decade? And why?
So,
For us, we got initially involved with our Havurah, and the different people in our Havurah were connected in different ways to different things going on in the synagogue. So it kind of kept you connected to all the different activities that were going on. And then I would get involved in some things like setting up oneg or whatever. And then Michelle, I was just wondering, there was some fundraising dinner. Do you remember? We wound up raising a bunch of money through whatever it was for. I don't even remember what it was for, but I got involved in the planning of that.
The auction items.
Yeah, there was a lot of auction items. That's all I really remember is there was a ton of auction items.
Is it one of the anniversary
It might have been.
fundraisers? Because we had a lot, they put me in charge of a lot of auctions.
Yeah.
It was probably the one where I was pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's when I found out you were pregnant at the
It
end
was
of the
an
dinner.
anniversary fundraiser. It was an anniversary gala.
Yes.
And it was at the temple, right? Because I think you came
Yes.
early and actually helped set up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was a long time.
That's
We
wild.
raised a lot of money that night.
Yeah.
Aaron, how did you find a Havurah?
That's a really good question. I think somebody reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to be in one. And I remember going to Scott, what the hell's a Havurah? And because Scott grew up in a very observant family, Orthodox. And he's like, it's like a group. And my mother, we must have been at my in-laws at the time because I remember my mother-in-law going, oh, those are great. You should do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. I don't know. It started out at a really kind of awkward time for our family because my dad was going through cancer treatment. And so we went to the first meeting and we were like, we're going to be out of pocket for a little bit. But it was nice to have people that were supportive of everything while we were going through that. But yeah, that kind of started us getting involved with being at events and being involved. And then also, so
Hold on just 1 second.
Oh.
Just for anyone who is watching right now, you too can join a Havurah because we're starting new ones. So just slight little commercial there if anyone wants to be part of Havurah. Now go back, Karen. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And our Havurah has changed throughout the years.
Yeah, we're on
There's been
3.0 or something.
yeah, something like people
Yeah.
have moved or
Yeah.
unfortunately passed
Some,
away,
yeah.
or like it died down and then it grew back, picked back up
Yeah.
with new families. And so, it's evolving. It's evolving. The other thing was Eden was 5 when we started at TBE, and 5 is about the age where you get invited to everyone's birthday parties.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to a lot. That's how, we got to know a lot of the families in Eden's classes, because you're going to the birthday parties, and which was a lot of fun because they're, 5 and 6. They're totally adorable, right?
Yeah.
I think Eden was in my class when you started.
Yes,
I thought that's why you stayed, because
Yes.
There you go.
It was because Michelle.
Yeah,
It was because of Michelle.
That's right.
I can't remember.
Even if there's no fun in your class, right?
No, it was horrible. It was just a horrible class.
But Karen actually comes from my neck of the woods and went to high
Yes.
school with my
that's
sister.
right.
We went to the same high school, but different years. So like we talk about going to Catella Deli and growing up doing that, and like the same pizza places and
Sure.
all that kind of business. But yeah, so just being connected to different families kind of kept us involved in the goings on at the synagogue.
I think it was, or I anticipated it would be a challenge to get involved. So your question is really good, Rabbi Cassie, because for me, it was 2 levels. As I began my journey, I chose to go to attend every single thing I possibly could. And nothing was off limits, a class, a ritual, a service, anything. So the involvement with the religious aspect of Temple Beth El and Judaism, that was of my doing. Getting involved with what I call giving back, which is my lay leadership participation. Just a couple, 3 years after I joined, I became a bat mitzvah. And it was pretty emotional and exciting. And it was an amazing group of, a supportive Shabbat service with a lot of community there. But what I remember is that when Rabbi Lee was giving the priestly blessing, and he was looking in my eyes, and I looked right back, he held my feet to the fire and told me my responsibility was to be involved, to give back to this incredible community. And so although I don't remember much, I probably couldn't even read my parsha or my part right now, but I remember his directive, if you will, and that guidance. And I think when you asked me to participate tonight, I thought back, that came forward out of someplace in here and in my heart. Because he said, and I tried really hard to follow that powerful rabbinic suggestion.
And one more commercial I'm just going to throw in here is that starting in October, there'll be information coming out soon. We're starting an adult bar mitzvah class. So anyone who wants to take part in that can do that as well. Yeah, go ahead. You're muted though. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
I'll be part of the class.
Cool. Wow.
My kids will and my husband will help me.
Especially your kids. Yeah. So our involvement just sort of kind of feels like it just organically grew. Elon asked me to play some guitar, and I've never said no to anyone who ever asked me to play an instrument. So I started doing that with the kids. But a couple of years before we came to Temple Beth El, when Rachel turned 5, we were given by another rabbi, we were given a little tiny Hebrew primer. Just learn the letters, start learning some of the vowel sounds, and put them together into simple words. So Rachel and I, 2 or 3 nights a week, instead of bedtime story, it was this bedtime book. And it was sheen 46 times across the page with a different vowel underneath, and sha, sho, sha. And we did that. So together we learned to decode Hebrew. Together we did. And so I was pretty good at it when I got to Temple Bethel. But occasionally I would ask the fabulous Debbie Rowe for a little help about this or that. And why is this way? And Debbie, being Debbie, flooded me with information about such things. And then 2 years later, she said, well, you should start teaching Torah school. And I said, I should? Are you crazy? Me teaching Torah school? She is crazy. That's one of the things I love about her. And so I began teaching Torah school in 4th grade. And I felt like for the entire first year I did it, I was literally 2 pages ahead of them in the book. Right. And I was studying up and I had everything ready.
And that's the year Rachel started.
It was Rachel's 4th grade year. Yeah, was the year. And I think she had Shoni in 3rd grade and then came to me in 4th. So the very first morning of Torah school, when everything had died down and we'd done all the orientation and this and that, and I think I had eight in that class, and I was sitting in that class looking at them and they were looking at me. And I'm like, okay, now what? And I both Michelle and Barbara know that feeling, like, okay, now what, right? Whatever I had planned didn't happen, or it ended in 15 minutes, and now what, kind of thing. And I asked a question, and I don't remember anymore what exactly the question was, but it was some great philosophical, if God is good, why is there evil? That kind of a question, right? And Adrian Siegel, bless his heart, gave me the most amazing answer. And in a heartbeat, I didn't even know I was going to say it. I said to him, that was amazing. You get 10 million meaningless bonus points for that answer. And that ended up turning into kind of my shtick for my entire Torah school career. To the point where kids would say to me, where's my bonus points? Right? Whenever they did well, they would, and to which I would say, they're meaningless. And they're like, yeah, where's my bonus points? Or, okay, 3 million for you. Yeah. And it just became a rolling shtick and carried us through all of those in between moments of a school day, right? Was that, yeah. Oh, and we'd hear him in the hall. Well, I got 15 million, and oh yeah, well I got 14 million, and I'm going to get more tomorrow. Yeah, it just turned into a whole thing. I think you had a memory of our girls in Torah school.
I think one of the most special things about Torah school, besides instilling a love of Judaism in our daughters, which they both have, and I'm so proud of that, is Michelle. Okay, I can't. I'm gonna start crying. Oh. You say
so. Both of our daughters were Madrikim for Michelle, and
for like 5 years.
Yeah. I think more because it ran almost consecutively. I think Rachel did it for like almost 5 years, and then Sophie did it for another almost 5 years, probably the better part of 10 years. And it's been so sweet.
And you're such a nurturer person, and you've done such a wonderful job of loving our girls. Thank you.
They're pretty special people.
And it carries through to today because I think Michelle obviously knows, but many of you don't know, Sophia is now working full-time for Hadassah. Michelle, do you know where Sophia is tonight?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do.
Talk to her on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know physically right now where they are, but I know her journey. Yes. Yeah,
she flew back to DC Thursday night late and is partnering with her college roommate to drive to Phoenix for her college roommate's new job. So they're doing a cross-country trip. They are somewhere, they're in a motel somewhere right outside of Nashville tonight. Yeah. And Sophia is thrilled, and her college roommate hates country music. It's awesome. It's all good. It's all good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funny. Eden was in Nashville last night.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She's picking up her college roommate they're still in college and they're driving back. They're in
Wow.
Oklahoma City tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, so kids driving all over.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about moving all over, so I'm going to move into the next question, which is about moving moments that you had at Temple. Anything that particularly spoke to you or inspired you?
I had two, even though I wasn't a member at that time, still was connected to the synagogue. My mom, may she rest, passed at the end of January 2001. And I had been with her the day before. It was a very sudden thing. And I stayed in San Pedro and I went down to the temple on Friday night. And Roz Furman-Leach and her mom, may she rest, were in the back row. And I came in and quietly sat, and actually it was after my mom was buried. So it was the day that my mom was buried. And I came to the service and Rabbi was doing one of his like ask the rabbi type thing, which he did periodically. Some of you are nodding your heads. And at one point he walked to the back of the sanctuary, put his arms around me and gave me a big hug. That was Rabbi. We'd also had a shiva for my mom, and my rabbi in Orange County had forgotten to bring the shiva booklets. And since, I know somebody, so my rabbi then, who knew Rabbi, he called him up, and I think it was Elon probably that came to the door and gave me the bag with all the shiva booklets. So, I mean, even then, while I was not an official member at that time, there was always that love and concern. And Grant, I've got to say, if Debbie Rowe said that she wanted you to be a teacher, that's a big honor.
Yeah, she was quite the mentor to me,
Mhm.
quite the mentor. Yeah.
I have a ton of personal experiences, but when I was thinking about this, I don't want to go too far off what you're doing, Rabbi Cassie, but I looked at just this first decade, not this second. So can I talk about that for a couple minutes? I decided to call this first decade in the 21st century for Temple Bethel one of change. And certainly it was changes for me, that I've already told you about. It was a change with Rabbi Lee of over 3 decades of a career, who retired and then shortly thereafter died. It was getting a new rabbi in Rabbi Chuck. It was bringing in new Sidurim. Mishkan Tefillah came in, both for our Shabbat services and then the Maksurim, I think, for High Holy Days. I don't know if that's the right whatever.
That was the decade after that,
Was it? Okay.
but it was the starting point of all
Right.
of that. So the point is well taken.
But big change, right? I watched that transition, those transitions. They were amazing. The relationships that people had for decades with Rabbi Lee, and how they handled losing him to retirement, and then secondarily to his death. Huge change in what people were used to using in worship, those books. Gates of Repentance, I don't know what they were called.
Gates of Prayer.
Of prayer. Thank you. And yet the transition was so smooth. Hardly any rebellion, if you will. Big change. I remember change in our own family, in that I remember Rabbi Chuck talking about the temple matriarchs and his expertise and wisdom that he had gained from his prior position up in Los Altos, where he was I think an assistant or associate rabbi to a female rabbi, Rabbi Janet Martyr.
Martyr.
Mhm. He must have learned an incredible amount that added to his sensitivities and sensibilities, because he was painfully distraught as he buried what he called the temple matriarchs: Zona Belzer, Esther Taus, Dorothy Paul. Those are all names I can see how you all are touched by that. He was touched by it as well. And I realized how important, we talk about the importance of Temple Bethel family as a whole, but it's the sum of its parts and how each of those parts are so important. I learned so much from him. I learned, or I saw change. Do you remember just in a pragmatic sense, the temple work week changed during that time. Rabbi Chuck said, no, you're all taking Monday off. We can't have this scattering of the rabbi's off this day, the cantor's off this day, the office is closed this day. People struggled with that. They said, how can we live without the temple being open on Monday? That's not going to work. And we all made it work because our people needed not just a Shabbat, which generally speaking, as you well know, our people work on Shabbat. We're there praying perhaps, but there's a rabbi and a cantor and office staff who've done a whole lot and do a whole lot on Shabbat. They needed that Monday. And that was a big change. It was a big change, you remember, to have a Shabbat morning service. And so those new kinds of services were born. The healing service on Shabbat morning, the Torah on the trails, the lay-led Shabbat morning service. Those all came into being during that first decade of the 21st century of our temple. I think that fact that decade for me, as I reflected on it, that change is a challenge, change is positive, and change really means something to people who are involved. And it's a sensitive road to travel, but I think our community did a really good job. You know, sure, people left when Rabbi Leib left, and people left when Rabbi Chuck left or came, whatever. But people also stayed and rolled with the punches, if you will. And we, as our temple has grown, and I know we'll speak to that later, how we want our temple to grow. I think that particular decade, from the lens through which I see it, was a time of growth. And a lot of good things were happening, and we did it. We all made it through. And I think we're better for it. You know, we have a Siddur that is a treasure, that we can read so many different things while the service is going on and really experience prayer as we need to. And the changes, I think, were pretty terrific. Anyway, I think that's all that I could think of, or that I wanted to share, at least at this point.
Thank you so
Marla,
much, Marla.
When you mentioned about the two rabbis, one thing that has always remained with me was the talk that Rabbi Leib came when Chuck Briskin came in. If any of you were there that Friday night, and Rabbi Leib said, all I ever wanted to be was a congregational rabbi. And he mentioned that he'd been through either 4 or 5 generations of families, and that's what he'd wanted. But he was also very gracious when he told us how he happened by accident to meet Rabbi Chuck, etc. So it was a very peaceful transition, and he made it as easy as he could. And that's also part of the nature of Temple Bethel.
A lot of times we talk about this phrase. I started it the first time I was president in the second decade of the 21st century. You do what's good for Temple Bethel. And sometimes that's not necessarily what you think is the right thing, but you think of the whole picture and you do what's best for the temple. And all of, I think, our clergy continue to do that, did it then and continue now.
I wanted to just share quickly that I think Temple Bethel allowed me to have an opportunity to do something I wasn't sure I was capable of doing, which was to be in charge of the Hanukkah dinner. Like that's not my comfort level, and I can't quite remember, probably Debbie. But someone said you can do it, and so there I was managing large numbers of people and getting people organized and putting on a big event. And it's still not my comfort zone, but I did it, and I feel proud that people were, and what an amazing community. I mean, there were amazing volunteers left and right. It all came together very well, but I just really appreciate that I was given the opportunity to, try something that's out of my comfort level and do well because of the support I got.
It's awesome. So you never know where those blessings are going to come.
And no, I'm not volunteering to do it again.
Noted. We'll have to find something else. Are there any funny stories or anything that we didn't cover that you really would like to share that's indicative of this decade at the temple?
I thought of one thing, and it's more something that shows how times have changed. So when we were temple shopping and we went to our first service at TBE, we brought Eden, and I had a backpack with activities to keep her busy. And I didn't really realize, but even then people looked at us a little odd for coming into a synagogue with a backpack full of stuff. Right? She was still at an age where you kind of needed to have a snack just in case someone got cranky, and just something to keep her busy after she paid attention for about 20 minutes and then that was it, kind of thing. Now I would probably tackle someone that walks into the synagogue with a huge backpack like that. But yeah. It was something that didn't even occur to me. And then Scott was like, yeah, the reason everyone's looking at you really oddly is because you've got this huge backpack full of stuff.
Right. We're strangers. What's going on? But we shared all of our snacks. It was great.
Yeah.
Little mini owning in the aisles. It was awesome.
So
it's funny. Yeah, Barbara.
I remember being surprised to the point of shock when I went to the synagogue at the occasion I mentioned, and there were doors or whatever, everything was locked up. You couldn't just walk in. And that was another change, not a great change, but it was a change. And now we are dealing with it.
Yeah.
But it being locked up is also a sign of responsiveness to the times.
Yes. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. We're prepared for everything, but we don't have to be in fear of it, right?
That's right. And we're still coming.
One of the other changes that I saw during that time, although I didn't know it was new or different, but there was a satellite TBE in the Hillside Village in Torrance, just a little bit south of Hawthorne and PCH at Hawthorne Boulevard and Newton. And it was a place where some Torah school took place, as well as the adult Torah study. Well, that worked out really well for me as I just joined the temple. And like I told you, I went and did everything I possibly could. Well, at that time, I was working at South High School, which is basically down the road on Pacific Coast Highway. So I would leave work. I think they thought I was seeing a therapist, and that's okay. I just never told them exactly where I was going for that hour and 15 minutes.
You kind of were seeing a therapist.
In a way, yeah. You're absolutely right. Studying that one line with Rabbi Lee, you bet. And so I would go there. It was so convenient. So, and it wasn't on Thursday like it is now. I forget what day of the week it was. Maybe it was Monday. I don't know. but anyway, went there for different classes. I think Canterbury Lawn taught a class there. I know Andy did something there that we were learning about a value, a Jewish value, and Torah study was there once a week. And it was an effort. There was this very strong membership engagement, if you will, group. There was a vice president of membership, and it wasn't broken up, but it was very involved, and the outreach was amazing. And so I think, in fact, the year I joined, I think there were like 30 new members that particular year. So they were working hard, and this was one way to branch out, because we all know the stories of San Pedro and the issues that provokes, if you will. And they were trying so hard, and it worked, and then they had to close it because of expenses and et cetera. But that was a big change, and it sure worked out for me. And then when Torah study moved to different, I think it was an office building off of Silver Spur. I just took a little 15 more minutes and went to my therapy appointment once a week.
And now hopefully we can find another place where we can have internet and be in person at the same time. We haven't figured that out since COVID, but we will.
Right.
As soon as people are ready.
Again, it's been that blessing, all those folks that are zooming in from a distance. It's just, who would have guessed
it's true.
That happened, a positive out of this horrible negative thing.
Got to take our blessings wherever we can find them, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
I think for me, I joined in the late 90s as a single person, and it was an instant community, and I had a connection with everyone else's kids. But when I decided to have a kid on my own and kind of go out of that norm of how families are created, I said from the get-go, when people first knew that I was pregnant, I wanted the village, and I wanted a communal baby, and I wanted a place that I could come and that was, would welcome me in my decision with open arms. And that's what I got. And I always joked I was more like a mom of a third child than a first child, because I would literally walk into temple and, here's my baby. Cassie, you've seen how people just welcome kids. It was whoever wanted this little being could have him. And I would come, my family thought I was nuts, but from the time I brought him, home from the NICU, we would come to Friday night services, and I didn't go around his schedule. He kind of adopted to my schedule, and he grew up in the arms of this wonderful, loving community. And it was really, truly a testament to who and what we are as a community. When I had 250 people or more at his naming, and it was an open event. I wanted to celebrate with my community and my communities, and it was overwhelming and astounding to just fill Emmanuel Hall and the synagogue with so much love, and to have everyone come together and celebrate this choice that I made that was not, the traditional path. And my friendships have changed kind of a lot, having had babies at the same time with my now good friends. And we don't have a formal Havurah. I've never been part of a Havurah, but we call ourselves the village people. And it's kind of that village of friendships coming together. It wasn't really a formalized anything, because we were just open to anybody who wanted to be part of that community of young families. And it's been such a gift and a blessing, just watching each other's children grow and learn together and socialize together. And selfishly, even like when Rabbi Chuck came in, when Rabbi Cassie came, you know, they both had young children at the time, and it just became, and the cantor, of course. Like, I remember sitting in services on Friday night when when Jody was pregnant with Jordan, and just like holding her belly as Jordan would like move around to a lawn singing, and Ethan kind of did the same thing. It was this reversal of, you know, who's got your hands on the belly and feeling the baby move to the music and the soulfulness and just the inspiration and meaning of really what is found within our walls of the synagogue. And we have found that it's not just the physical walls anymore, right? Marla said it, like it's our larger community. I have met and formed friendships with people who live outside of our community who are part of the community every Shabbos. So you look forward to seeing them and being there. It's just, it's home away from home. It is that second home. And I love watching my next generation feeling at home in those walls and coming to services and not having people get upset when our littles are, you know, like you said, Karen, like having snacks and running in the aisles. And Rabbi Lieb used to love it. And Laurel, you know, those, I was telling somebody recently, those tambourines that came a flying, like duck and run or reach your hand out and grab one and start dancing in the aisles. And it's a magical place. Like somebody sprinkled pixie dust, and it's just a safe, warm, loving home away from home. I feel blessed to be part of that.
Michelle, I'll just piggyback and tell not my story, but a story of someone else based on what you said and the warmth of the community. You all remember, I'm not going to say anything out of turn, but Rabbi Chuck came to us from Northern California, but he really came to us from Boston, you know, and you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the Bostonian, New England personality, right? So he had the little fellas, right? And they were pretty eager beavers, and particularly Avi. And it was at an Oneg Shabbat in the social hall where Avi took off his clothes and was running around. Well, Mr. Straight and Narrow Rabbi Chuck, you can imagine his expression, but the community just reveled in this little child being as impish as he could be, embarrassing his father. And we loved it. And I remember him stepping back and learning from that experience about the meaning of this community. We love each other.
Marla, his 16th birthday is today.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I remember, so many of you know, I was friends with Chuck from graduate school. He and I were very good friends. He and my sister were in Israel together for their first year of rabbinic school. And I was in a Rosh Kodesh group with Karen. So when Chuck was doing interviews at the synagogue, my picture was up back then. Cassie, the teachers' pictures were on the outside of the doors. And Don Leach was taking Chuck around, and he's like, I know her. You know, and I had no idea who was interviewing. It was kind of funny, but Jody and I were on baby watch duty when Karen went into labor with Avi. So we got a phone call to come and stay with Ezra, and you know, off we went to spend the night. Well, they went and had a baby, and that was just what we did. You know, we welcomed this little baby into the community. It's been a long time since we've had babies from the clergy, but I don't know, Cassie, your kids came when they were pretty little too, and just the warmth and nurturing and really seeing the clergy's kids become, you know, full-fledged members of this community as well, and the friendships that they develop along the way. It's beautiful.
We had 1 year that was like an interim year between the rabbi that I had when I became bat mitzvah, et cetera, Rabbi Hellman, may he rest. And we had a series of rabbis, I guess, sent out by the then UAHC or whatever. And one Friday night, this one rabbi, I will not mention names, he got upset because there was a little one that was crying and making noise, and he stopped and told the parents, please take your child out. And that is so not TBE. And I think that was the only time he was ever there, but it just was not what we do. And I remember when I came back 8 years ago, if I remembering correctly, Michelle, you brought your son to the teachers meeting that we had at that school that we were, well, yeah. And he was there, and somebody said, you know, he has to be here. I didn't know your story at that time, but that was Ethan. And I don't know if you brought a big backpack or not, but he kept
Ethan
himself
came to
busy.
every staff meeting that we had.
Yeah,
And yes, I had a backpack.
that's TBE.
And these are so many wonderful anecdotes that I know they're just a small piece of all the experiences that everyone had during that decade. As we're kind of closing up tonight's program, all of you have been connected to the temple for a long time, for at least 2 decades, right? So knowing about Temple Bethel's past and present, what are your wishes? What are your hopes for its future? Just a light, easy question.
Live long and prosper.
I would say that we continue this tradition of just inclusiveness and welcoming people with open arms of all walks of life. And that as our generations continue, they continue to keep this, the love and the strength in the community.
I'm really excited about the generation of children that Michelle and Barbara and I have shepherded through Torah school. My girls, 22 and 27, it won't be very many more years. And with Eden, of course, the same. It won't be that many more years before they come back to Temple Bethel, starting their own families. They won't all be back in Temple Bethel. People move and people go around the world, but a significant portion of them will be the next Temple Bethel. That's really a fascinating thing. I was going to say that some of my favorite Temple Bethel memories didn't happen at Temple Bethel. They happened at Hess Kramer and at Hilltop.
Mm.
And Barbara and Michelle know exactly what I'm talking about. We would work so hard every day and never a spare moment, just go, go, go. But then Hashkivenu would happen at the end of the day. And then grown-up time would happen. And another community. We'd all been through the wars that day, another community where we'd take a deep breath and get ready for the next day. But both of those experiences are favorite memories of mine.
Every Sunday when I drive up the hill to teach Torah school, I mean, this is going home for me. We moved to San Pedro. I was not quite 8 and 74. This is my 20th year at teaching combined at Temple Bethel and my 50th in Jewish education. It all started at Temple Bethel. That helped me navigate the course of my life. So there's a big, deep feeling in my heart for Temple Bethel. And my goal is to give other people. And I'm sure, you know, with Michelle and Grant, with all of us, that's what we want for the children as well as the adults, that we want them to have that feeling. Then we're going to have the next 100 years or 120.
I just am happy and to say for me personally, when someone new comes to the temple, I naturally just gravitate towards them and welcome them. It's a natural, it just happens. I'm not trying to do anything. It just, there was a couple there in July. I don't even remember their names right now, but I just sat at outdoors at a table with them, and there was just a very natural conversation back and forth. I went into the shul, we sat together. And then I actually have 3.5 years ago, I met Debbie Bertram. She was a single woman at the time, and we connected that night and on many levels, and we're 3.5 years later, she's a good friend of mine, and she just popped in one night. And so I hope that tradition of welcoming people just keeps going on. I'll help.
And it goes back also to Rabbi Leib's words, right? With that bat mitzvah service of being a part of the community and giving back. And so the future that we wish to see for the temple is possible because we all do our part to make it possible, to make it thrive for the next generations who come in, and for everyone who wants a warm, welcoming community, who wants a village where they'll be accepted and they'll be uplifted. So I just want to thank you all so much for taking this time on a Saturday night to conclude Shabbat, to start a week together, to share some wonderful memories about, the early 2000 years. And we're going to be having another one of these after the Chagim. We've reached that point of the year where it's Acharei HaChagim, after all of the high holy days. We'll be coming together to talk about the 2010s. So I encourage everyone to be back for that. There'll be information coming out about it as we get closer. And also to take part of so many of the wonderful programs that we have coming up. From next week, on Friday night, we're going to be having a service that's on Zoom only, just for that one Friday. And that is in part to encourage people to come in person for Slichot on Saturday night, where Frank Mink is going to be talking about his really inspiring story of repentance from being a white supremacist to being an active member of our Jewish congregation and a Jew himself. So it's going to be a very powerful program and service. And then, of course, all the high holy days that we have ahead. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you at all of those.